Welcome to the Big Fat Real Estate Checks podcast with Marco Kozlowski, where we help investors like you get the knowledge and skills you need to replace your JOB with passive cash flow for life.
Hey everyone, welcome to Big Fat Real Estate Checks. I'm here with Gabriel Araiz, who I'm almost cuddling with, and then Francesco Galluccio, who I'm now also almost making out with. We're all in the same room at the same time. Hello.
Been a while.
Been a while that we've all actually, since the first episodes that we've all been together in the same place.
We did the 100th episode.
That's right.
We did the 100th in Ottawa. And
oh my gosh. The 4 days to record half an episode?
Yes.
We did a lot more of this drinking
Yes.
than we did. So Frank has his Heineken. I have my sipping tequila, and Gabe, he's laying into the Coke.
Oh,
That's what he's doing
it's
right
Coca-Cola
now.
time.
Yes.
Nobody will believe that.
Yes. Yeah, it is what it is. Hey, it is what it is. You do what you got to do. So in the last podcast, we discussed Frank's deal, who had closed one and very quickly had been turning around this hotel. A lot of great lessons. Fortune is in the follow-up. The barrier of numbers, weird numbers, the power of weird numbers. Just so many really neat things. And he had dropped a couple things about actually, before I forget, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, please listen to the first 10. It explains asset-based lending, how Frank was able to buy an asset using absolutely none of his own money, in this case a hotel, even get the money to improve the hotel. So he has the budget to be able to do that, to increase the value of the hotel, purchasing and closing an asset that is worth $1 million at closing, that he actually got it for $750, and the value of the asset is actually over $2 million once he's done. So it's a very safe bet for the lender, and obviously Frank gets over $1 million in hotel value or asset value just by doing exactly what you should be doing. So we don't only teach this shit, we actually do it as well. So so we're all in the same room. Gabriel came for his daughter's skating lesson, which was not lesson but competition. She crushed it today. I'm very proud of her. I went to see that, and it's like 11 o'clock right now at night, and you've been up since 5 in the morning doing this. So, and since we're all together and you're leaving tomorrow, we thought, hey, let's get this podcast done that we promised at the last time we saw each other, which was some of the lessons that Frank, had learned, and some of the experiences that he had. I thought it would be a good time to share it. I believe the seller decided to just not show up for closing a few times. Yeah. I've had it a couple of times happen, but you had it on
4
one
times,
seller. You said 4, I don't know, 5, maybe it's 7. I don't know. I can't remember.
Well,
it was 4 times over 7 days.
4 times over 7 days. Is that confused? Yeah. No. It was actually, the deal almost fell apart 4 times, and yes, she did not show up for the selling for the closing on the second occasion. So what happened was,
tell us about the first.
So the first time she was going to break the deal because I gave her the contract. She didn't like some of the wording there. She wanted to net $750,000. So net. So I agreed initially to pay closing costs. So what happened is she had back taxes and things like that. Not back taxes. It was a previous year. I guess that would be back taxes.
Yeah,
yes.
That's right.
And she wanted me to pay all the current ones as opposed to being pro forma.
Prorated.
Sorry, not pro forma. And I said, you know what? Yes, a little bit of too much of that. So that's what we had a disagreement on. Is I was like, no, that I agreed to do $750, pay all your closing costs, traditional closing costs. Then she started, taking out things like CPA. She wanted me to pay for her lawyer, and I was like, hold on a second.
Well, closing costs are not back taxes and current taxes. Closing costs are attorney fees or, title insurance. Like those are closing
doc
costs.
Stamps, things like that.
Those
Yeah,
are closing
100%.
costs. Anything that's debt, like, I owe the IRS $2.6 million. I owe my ex-husband $17.2 million. I owe the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles royalties from XYZ. Like, that has nothing to do with that deal.
That's right.
So anyway, she was adding all these other expenses, which, obviously I disagreed to. I said, no, we're going to do traditional closing costs. And I even laid out all the items, if they were applicable, with like the doc stamp and title fees and the lawyer fee, and there's no transfer tax. But anyways, So anyways, so that on that note, she wanted to bail because she wanted 750 net, and I was like, well, it's not gonna happen 750 net. I go, lower the price and then it'll be net. I'll pay for that. But anyways, with that, she conceded. But at one point, she just said, no, I'm not gonna sell it. I can get more. So she always thought she can get a lot more. She didn't try, or she did, and she had this group from Orlando, like in the previous podcast we mentioned. But in the end, we did agree because thankfully the lawyer that she did retain was a family member, and he kind of put some senses into her a little bit. But even though he was frustrated with her as well, so
so you had a contract and then she wouldn't close, or this is at the contract she wanted to
So what happened? She didn't like our contract. She ripped it apart. So she went to go with her lawyer, which is a family acquaintance.
I got that.
And the lawyer used a FAR bar. So a FAR bar is a Florida Real Estate Association standard, agreement. Yeah. And when they presented it to me, I ended up adding addendums to it because to make sure that I'm protected as well during due diligence, inspection, all that. And every time, so she even ripped apart the FAR bar. She ripped apart certain clauses. Yeah, she ripped apart the FAR bar. She goes, no, I want it. But the way she was doing it, she would ask for 2 or 3 changes, send it to the lawyer. We would sign, DocuSign and initial. That change. Then she comes back and she goes, I want this one changed. So she did this over a course of 10 days. Oh my God. 10 to 15 days. So, and even the lawyer was getting frustrated. He goes, this is a lot of work. I was like, it's your client. Your client's, why don't you just tell her to look through it all? You consult her as her lawyer and get it done once, and I'll sign once. I go, this is ridiculous that we're doing one line at a time. Yeah. All right. So then I was getting.
You should have sent her your own invoice for time.
Yeah. For real. But anyways, so even on that, I was ready to bail. I was like, forget it. If it's this terrible now, I can just imagine during due diligence what's going to happen. And I didn't know if I want to go down that road.
That's a good point.
Can we actually cover that? Because if you're listening to this for the first time or you're not familiar how things should be done, how a seller does one thing is how a seller does most things. And if they're being extremely persnickety, cantankerous, difficult, hard to deal with, just with the agreement, generally they're going to be exactly the same during the due diligence phase when they have to give us documents. However, it's extremely important, A, to be patient, which is what you're doing, but B, have clarity as to what the non-negotiable items are on our side, so we have control during the due diligence process when a seller is being difficult. So I know, Gabe, you deal with this constantly with our tribe, so if you could expand on that a little bit, that'd be great. I think we've done a podcast on this already, but just a little bit of expansion would be great.
Sure. So may actually give an example. We're live right now, right, on an example of a student that has been going back and forth, a really pretty good deal in terms of the numbers, and sent the contract a little bit similar to you, Frank. Came back, was our due diligence items request list was kind of just torn apart, saying we're not going to give you this, we're not going to give you that, and a whole bunch of other things in the contract were dealt with in that they didn't want to do this, they didn't want to do that. I was like, okay, so we did exactly that. We sent back, we said, we didn't address all of their points. And I think that was the major thing is these are 2 points here, mainly the due diligence items. Because if you're not going to give us bank statements or you're not going to give us P&Ls, or like, how are we supposed to verify income? And that's exactly what we said. we said, hey, listen, you don't want to give us this or that. So how are we supposed to verify income? Basically you tell us. And put that on them. And they came back, well, it's not that we don't want to give them to you, is we don't want to give you anything with social security numbers on them. All right. So now I know what the problem is. So we're like, okay, well, the only item that we're asking for that has a social security number is probably the tax return. So just black those out and send them over. Okay. Now they're good. We send them back the agreement. A little bit similar to you, right? Yours was a FAR bar, but we send back the agreement. Now we're not going to give you the bank statements, and we want a proof of funds. And we're like, well, I don't understand. You said you're going to give us the bank statements last time we discussed this. And they're like, well, yeah, but now we have, 6 hotels feeding this or whatever, some bullshit, because they're LLCs. They're different, they're different accounts. So there aren't multiple hotels flowing to this bank statement. Like, we know this. So we call bullshit, and we say, and the way we call bullshit is, well, do the same thing. So just, black out everything that's not pertaining to this hotel, and we'll just look at the rest. And they're like, well, if you want the bank statements, you're gonna have to pay us $150,000 more on the property.
Wow.
So that's where like,
okay, write the check too.
Well, yeah, that's it. Like, come on, man. But just to your point, is how you do one thing is how you're gonna do everything. And so now, what ended up happening is they wanted a proof of funds as well. And we're like, you're gonna get your proof of funds after we have an agreement. We're not gonna start, disclosing our bank accounts and whatnot before we have an agreement. Like, we don't just go flashing. Did you ever go to a store? You walk into like. Even if you walk into Versace or Chanel, you don't walk in there with, an open bank account. You just go in there and you buy shit. And if your credit card passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So now we're kind of at a crossroads, right? We're like, well, okay, we can give a proof of funds and get this deal tied up because that's all they want. And they're honoring the initial price. At least there was that so that tells us two things, right? That they probably don't have another buyer if they went to $150,000 more willing to come back. So we know this, so we're not in a hurry. But the proof of funds thing is a little bit of a piss off here, because they're saying that this is a deal breaker after they kept going back and forth and coming back. So now this is the student's choice, right? We do this for the students. We don't do this for us. We enjoy doing this. We enjoy helping, but at the end of the day, this is going to impact the student directly. So we have only two choices now. We either, just give them proof of funds and just get onto the contract if that's what happens, because based on the history of this deal.
One more thing.
Exactly.
One more thing.
Exactly.
One more thing. So the seller's in control
Exactly.
all the time, which is a problem, because if you let someone else be in control of your money, what's going to happen? Bad things.
Yeah, absolutely. So our second option is we're going to give them a proof of funds and tell them we don't want to do this deal. And
unless XYZ.
Right, unless XYZ.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah.
Right, which includes probably at this point our price reduction as well.
Yeah.
So and I'm happy to say that the student is deciding to go with that option. She could have easily gone with the first one because it's a good deal. Like she'll do well with this, but she understands that this is going to due diligence is going to be a mess. Like,
if it closes, it's a good deal now,
right.
But because of what's happening and them always wanting one more thing and this and that,
this is the exact same story.
Which is exactly what's happening.
100% to the point where I had to. Well, she's going to continue to do it. She continued to do that over a course of 2 weeks, and that's when I put my foot down. And I said, because we had the floating dates, right?
Sure.
So I said, each day that you keep going back and forth, I'm pushing this date out. And I'm gonna keep pushing it. And then she didn't like it. And I was like, you know what? I go, you keep coming back. I go, that's it. I'm not gonna continue to agree to these things or whatever. I go, gather your thoughts. Go to your lawyer since you retained them. Go through them. Send me one document. I'll take a look to see if it qualifies after you finish doing all your changes. Because it was getting ridiculous. And I said, whatever you do, anytime you spend now, I go, so if it's a week, I'm pushing it over a week. If it's 2 weeks, I'm pushing it 2 weeks. She goes, no, I want to close by that. I go, it's not going to happen because
you're wasting time.
She just wasted 2 weeks on that. I go, it's not going to happen. I remember it was just before the holidays too. I go, we're shut down for 2 weeks. I go, we're shut down for 2 weeks. I go, so nothing's going to happen. So I gotta tack on another 2 weeks because I extended my due diligence.
Yeah, and then you ended up closing in March. Wow.
Exactly. So this is going. That's when it was.
So that was closing number 2.
No, that was supposed to be closing number 1.
Oh my God! All right.
So that was closing number 1. So, anyways, yeah.
I just want to highlight something: is that Frank is maintaining control, right? And you have to stay in control, and the seller is going to want everything. Usually, right? Yeah. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that, and as a beginner, generally, we just want to placate the seller because we don't want to lose the deal, right? But if you don't do that, you've already lost the deal. If you don't say no, if you don't put a line in the sand, if you don't say, here are the boundaries in which you get my money, how are we supposed to do what we're supposed to do within a reasonable amount of time if you're chewing up all the time that we have to fuck around with the contract, right? So you're taking all the time that you need, and then you expect us to honor our agreement when you've taken up the time that we need. How is that fair? It's not. So understanding that and executing that it takes the understanding of the process and being okay with people saying no as well. Like, we're not going to sell it to you. And the reality is Frank, if he didn't get what he needed, he wouldn't have bought it, because it puts Frank in a bad spot, and it puts the lender in a bad spot. You don't buy things that don't check out, and if we can't check them out, we don't buy them.
And that was one of the big hang-ups up on her with the bank statement. She didn't want to supply it. She goes, why am I supplying you? You know, why do you need 2 years of bank statements? She goes, it's personal info. And I made the assumption when she said that she was using a personal account.
Right.
Because she's a one-woman show. And I was like, just block out any sensitive information there. I just need to see, you know, your deposits and your withdrawals. It's just figure out the expenses. I go, but that's all you need to know. If it's your personal account. Then she comes back and she goes, no, it's not my personal account. It's a business account. I go, but you're selling your business. So it's not really personal. I go, you can still black out it. She goes, oh, that's a lot of work. I go, I'll buy you a Sharpie. I said, I'll buy you a Sharpie. I'm here when you're ready. Well, I did say that because I was getting frustrated because I was wasting a lot of time. Yeah. And I was like, listen, I go, this is the deal. The more time you waste, we're going to keep pushing it. I'll buy you a Sharpie. I need the bank statements. I go, that's for us to show, past performance and to verify the income. That's all we need it for.
But you're comfortable leaving the whole time. That's.
I left a lot of times.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. And then so, that's kind of the. I think that's where you see the experience. You're willing to leave at any point, even during the closing time. Like it's you're not married to this deal at all.
Ever.
No. And
well, now you are, but
listen, you know what?
Yeah, you own it. So
you're good. It's yours, so you are married to it.
So, but even in the end, when we finally agreed to an agreement that it wasn't amended no more, we were supposed to close on I believe it was the 18th, and she wanted, which was a Friday, and she wanted extra time to move out. She goes, it's overwhelming for her. And I was trying to be compassionate. I was like, I get it, this and that. She goes, I don't do this every day. I go, I get it. Even after all the shit she put me through, I said, fine, what are you looking for? She goes, I want to close on the Monday. I go, fuck. I go, all right. Tell your lawyer to do an addendum. We're going to close on the Monday, period. All right? So we did the addendum to close on the Monday. But now the Monday, that's when I ran into the snag with the paperwork. And I couldn't close on Monday.
Which paperwork? Which paperwork?
It was paperwork. Okay, so on the previous podcast we were talking about. So what happens? I got an appraisal done. The lender needs an appraisal, and the appraisal has what's called a cost replacement value, and the insurance company needs that cost replacement value to insure the property. Otherwise, the lender is not going to give it to you, the money. So those two numbers weren't jiving. The insurance company had one number, and the appraisal had another one. So the lender went back to the appraisals. Hey, can you adjust this to reflect this so we can get the insurance? Because they need a certificate.
So you wouldn't have been able to close on the Friday anyways.
No. No. So it was, but I didn't know that then.
Right.
I didn't know that then. I was like, oh, fuck, thank God.
Yeah.
Right? But then on Monday, it was still another shit show because it wasn't going. As the lender's like, I still need it. And then once we finally got the appraisal amended, I went back to my broker, my insurance broker, that is. I go, get me the certificate of insurance, make sure that they're the loss pays, because the lender wants to be what's called a loss pays. So if something happens to the property, tornado, hurricane, flood, fire, whatever the case is, when the insurance company pays out a claim, they will put the name of my company, the LLC, and the lender in there, and both parties have to sign the check in order for it to be cashed. Okay, that's how they protect themselves in the event something catastrophic happens to the property. So we got the appraisal done, but the certificate was going to take a day. I go, I don't have a day. I need it today.
Right.
Actually, in fact, I need it before my closing was at 3:30. My closing is at 3:30, and they go, I don't know if that's going to happen. I was like, well, you got to do it, man. You got to do it. So in the end, they didn't do it. Mm-hmm. So what happened? I did have some leverage because we used the proper language in the addendum. That
you insisted on, by the way.
100%.
Right.
Yes.
So again, the agreement and the contract that you put into place allows for this.
Yes.
Right.
The FAR bar does not. That's
Correct.
the standard one, but our our addendum had the proper language in there where it says basically once we receive all these items, then we're going to proceed with inspections. But I had most of the items. I was even okay to close. but now I had to use that as my ace of spade, basically. I was like, I had to pull this, and it was maybe 2:30, close to 3:00, half hour before.
So what'd you tell her? I don't have this.
I didn't tell them anything. I just emailed them. So I pulled over on the turnpike. I had to. So I was on the floor of the turnpike. I was almost there. I had to pull over. I was like, I gotta write an email to them.
Yeah.
And I just did it to the lawyer and to all the parties, the title company. I said, listen, I put urgent, and I go, just so you know, we need these items. We haven't received these items. We need these items before closing. And I put, there was one bank statement from September, a current one, and she had to do her transfer for bookings.com and Expedia, which she didn't do, and Google Business.
Okay.
And I knew she was not going to do it within an hour.
Well, actually, that's pretty important. The first two were obviously red herrings, right? Doesn't matter. But transferring that goodwill, I think in your contract, you had a numerical value to that.
100%. It was 50,000 goodwill on that. Yeah.
Of the reviews and the reports and the websites and everything that she set up, so there's no loss of business as it's coming in, hasn't been transferred, which has to be done.
Yeah. Well, I was going to do it at the closing table, but I decided to say no. She's got to do it before.
Right.
Like in my head, I was going to do it at the closing table because there's a way to do it on the computer, like on the spot. But they didn't know that. So I just said, hey, this has got to be transferred. It's in the addendum. And then, shit hit the fan at that point. That's when the lawyer phoned me. He was phoning me. I said, I'm on the turnpike. I'm on my way there. He goes, why are you doing this? And I was like, why am I doing what? He goes, why are you doing this at the 11th hour? I go, it's not the 11th hour. I go, we've been at this for over a month and a half. I go, I did my things as the buyer, and she had to do her things as the seller, which she didn't do. She neglected it. I go, so why am I on the hook for her responsibility? So that's the point. She was sitting back from when we got the contract, like everyone was catering to her.
Right.
And I even went over and beyond where I was, every week, every time she would give me something, every week I would give her updated DD item list. This is what we're missing. This is what we're missing. I didn't have to do that. She wouldn't have to. No, I don't have to do that. She knows exactly what she gave me. She should have kept track. I was just doing it just to make it smooth for myself and for her. But I didn't have to do all that. So yeah, I pulled that card and I go, listen, I did all my stuff. I'm not responsible for her things. That's a contract, black and white. It says transfer due prior to closing, and she didn't do it. I don't have it. If she did it, show me when I get there in 20 minutes. And then I guess he reported back to her,
and she never showed up.
And she never showed up to the closing table, which bought me the day.
Okay, and then the next day you went to close.
And on Tuesday, then I got my certificate.
Yeah.
I still could have used it as a play card, but at that point I didn't. She gave me the bank statements though.
Did you ever get your Google reviews, all that stuff?
She gave me the Google Business and bookings and Expedia. She did it on the spot there.
Okay.
Didn't she ask you for an extension or did you not ask her for an extension or?
Oh yes, sorry. Forgive me. Yes, I did. I'm so sorry.
I
yes.
remember, something else happening that like an insane amount of money.
So yes. So on the Monday, when I knew the certificate,
right,
I was still hopeful. All right, it was still 11 o'clock. I was still very hopeful that I was gonna get the certificate of insurance. So I phoned her and the attorney, and I said, "Listen, I go, there's some paperwork snags. I didn't say exactly what. I go, there's some paperwork snags. They're trying to correct it right now with the insurance, and I go, if I can postpone it just another day." I go, preferably Wednesday, 2 days. I go, but I'm very confident we'll have this done on Tuesdays, just so the one day, if anything, right? They'll just give her a little bit extra time to pack up and leave. And I thought it was a reasonable request considering I just approved hers from the Friday to the Monday because she was overwhelmed. And then she came back saying, there's no way, why, this was supposed to be a cash deal. I go, yeah, but I need my insurance. I go, what does that got to do with it? With the appraisal, I go, there's an appraisal and there's insurance. I need both of them, and there's a snag on the numbers. And I go, I'm just asking for 1 day. I'm not asking for a month. And she goes, well, if you want it, you're going to pay the 2021 taxes, and you're going to pay me $50,000. I go, for 1 day? And she goes, yeah. And no, that's when I said, forget it. We're closing today, which was the Monday, right? I go, no, forget it. That's ridiculous request. I go, we helped you out when you needed a thing. Now you're being, that's
unreasonable.
That's being very unreasonable to do. And I go, but I don't know why you're like this. I go, I'm just asking for 1 day to make it smoothly. You're still getting everything you need. You just get an extra day. You can still move out. I haven't offered her. She goes, oh, where are we going to go? I'll put you in a hotel. Mm-hmm. I said, I'll put you up at the Hilton, in downtown Ocala, whatever. I'll put you up in a hotel. You and your husband can have a night out and celebrate, whatever. I go, but she didn't take it. And I go, I'm not giving you $50,000 and paying back taxes of another $7,000. I go, that's ridiculous.
$107,000. That's how much.
No, 7,000. 7,000. Then she came back. She emailed me. She goes, fine. She goes, just pay me the back taxes. I go, I still ain't paying $7,000 for one night. I go, I'll give you the Hilton, but not $7,000, right? And then I go, no, we're closing today. But that's what that happened. I pulled
That's it.
a half hour before. So that's what happened there. She was furious. She didn't show up. He goes, where is she? And I'm like, where is she, man? I'm here. I'm ready to close, which I wasn't. So it kind of went to my favor that she didn't show up at all, because now she's technically in default.
Yes.
Right. So I go, okay, now this is actually playing in my favor. Now she's in default. She didn't do her things. Thank God I had that leverage, because if I didn't have that leverage, I could have lost my EMD. It's $50,000.
Right.
And, everything I had to get survey, I had to get appraisal. There's a lot of money involved. So thankfully it went to Tuesday and got my certificate, and we ended up closing at
She did show up. She did show up.
She did show up. But it was
Just serious the whole time.
4:45. That's what she showed up, because the guy's like, where is it? I don't know, man.
Yeah, but you would have had recourse at that point to.
I had recourse.
Do a lot of things.
Yeah. I had recourse. So, anyways, we ended up closing, and but it was a roller coaster for sure, between the contract and not having the proper paperwork and asking for the extension. And
That's okay. Yeah.
But well, it was a little bit nerve wracking, I gotta say, only because I wasn't thinking of. I was trying to look for something that I can snag her on. And thankfully, when I looked through the contract, I go, wait a second, I don't have this. I was like, there's no transfer. I didn't see anything. So that was my savior.
That's why you have to use the DD tracking sheet.
Yes.
Yes.
It's in our curriculum. And
Yes.
Actually, the DD tracking sheet, hold on, does not have the transfer of the OTAs. So maybe we should put that.
we should add it.
And who's responsible for putting the DD tracking sheet together?
I gave.
It's this guy.
No,
is it Gabe or is it Frank? We have to add that in.
We'll add that in. But no, you know what? But thankfully, if I were to use the existing FAR contract, I would have been toast.
Yeah.
If anyone uses the existing
Yeah.
state contracts, they're toast, because it protects the agent, the seller, and the broker. It does not protect the buyer in most cases.
She would have had 50 G's of
She would
your
have
money.
50 G's, and I would have been down at least 60. I spent the survey and
appraisals
Yep.
for sure.
$60,000 and a long headache.
Instead, you got yourself a
Yeah,
hotel at
it
a
was-
discount, my friend.
Instead, you made $1 million.
You will.
Yeah, I will.
Well,
It's not
there's
really-
$1 million asset there.
Well, it's $1 million asset, but I paid $750
Yeah.
for it.
A $2 million asset on the numbers. Once it's full.
From an income, yes. From an income approach, yes.
From an income perspective, when this thing is done, it's a $2 million asset that you got for $750 with no money out of your pocket, with the right paperwork, with experience.
Yep.
Very cool.
It's going in that direction.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. There's the, I guess the recap. A lot of neat little things happened. You want to do a quick recap there, Gabe? You don't want to do it?
No, not after all those closings.
Just rewatch this.
it's gonna
Just
be
rewatch the podcast. How many closings? What?
Closings was there?
Well, who extended what? Yeah.
He's got to count to
Far
11.
bar?
And if he goes, he can only count to 21 if he's naked. So, so yeah, there's a lot of. This is not a family show, but it is a family treat when these things happen, because 100%. It's exactly what's going to take care of Frank and his family, or you and your family on the deal that you're working on right now, and it really is a lot of fun. I know it was stressful at the time, but you kept your cool. You followed process. You were not married to the result, but rather divorced from it. Made sure you had the right pieces in place, had the right contracts in place, and it worked out really well.
It worked out. I was blessed on that way, so thank you.
Well done. Congrats. And yeah, that's it. So there's the recap of that. A lot of lessons there. And if anyone thinks that every single deal is peaches and cream, it's not. There's always something that happens. I don't think I've ever seen one closing that went exactly as planned, one HUD that was absolutely perfect. There's always little things that can happen. And that's kind of the fun and the beauty of this
100%.
business, right? It's why we enjoy it.
The journey.
Yes. And if you think that you're doing this because you're not going to have any problems, the reason we make millions is because there are problems. And the bigger the problems, the more money you make. And the more educated, the more skilled you are, the more money you're going to make. And that's just how it works. So appreciate you guys. Appreciate you, the listener. Like it, love it, share it. Make sure you share this with as many humans as possible. If you have interest in learning how to do this, learning how to help as many humans as possible and make millions in the process through skill and using other people's money, using asset-based lending, using knowledge to leverage money, highly recommend that you attend a class. Shoot us an email, marco@marcokozlowski.com. That's marco@marcokozlowski.com. Gabe, Frank, appreciate you both. And man, that was at least 2 hours.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Our families all went to bed.
Everyone's toast. So again, appreciate you guys. Appreciate you, the listener. And we'll see you on the next podcast. Take care. Bye-bye for now.
If you like this episode of Big Fat Real Estate Checks, then show some love by leaving a comment and a good rating. Also, as a thank you for tuning in today, we've got a special free gift. The journey to passive cash flow for a life starts by finding deals, and it's easier than you think. Simply go to getdealsbytuesday.com, enter your email address, and we'll send you a free quick start course called Deals by Tuesday. Even if it's 11 p.m. Monday night, this course will show you how to find discounted real estate deals by Tuesday. It's that fast and simple. Go to getdealsbytuesday.com and start your journey toward life-changing cash flow today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.